Coming in at a number 10 spot, we have the Devil's Tower. This brick tower was built in 1910 by millionaire sugar importer Manuel Rionda. He claims he built it for his late wife, Harriet Rionda, in order to give her a better view of the skyline. However, nowadays many believe his wife's spirit is stuck inside of the tower. According to the local legend, Harriet spotted Manuel with another woman one day, and despite the fact that she may have suspected cheating for over years, she still went off to the tower and took her own life out of grief. Since her alleged suicide, there has been several stories of hauntings, including accounts from persons who claim they were propelled by an eerie force. After all these tragedies, the tower was eventually named into the Devil's Tower, and I could say this name fits pretty well. At a number 9 spot, we have the Jersey Devil. Did you know that the mascot of the NHL team, New Jersey Devils, is based on a real creature that used to terrorize the state for years? Yeah. They are described as kangaroo-like creatures with the face of a horse, the head of a dog, and bat-like wings, horns, and tails. Sightings have occurred for the past 200 years, and it all started when a resident of Estiville was going to give birth for the 13th time, which she didn't plan for. So in disgust, she yelled out, quote, "Let it be the devil," and when it came out, it actually turned out to be a baby devil who ended up screeching before flying out the window, and that is now known as the New Jersey Devil. And I know that story might sound a bit crazy, but regardless, during the years, New Jersey has had unidentified creatures raiding chicken coops and killing livestock. At number 8 spot, we have the Watcher. This story has been made into a full-length show, but the fact that it was a true story makes it that much creepier. Located in Westfield, New Jersey at 657 Boulevard is the infamous Watcher House. It all started when a young couple named Derek and Maria Broadus bought the home back in 2014. The house is pretty old to begin with, so they immediately began renovations to make it into their dream home. However, shortly after they were official owners of the home, they would receive several letters from a person only known as the Watcher. The first letter read, quote, "657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in 1920s, and my father watched it in the 1960s. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out." Eventually, the couple would get more and more letters to the point when the police needed to be involved. And when they finally sold the home, they never really uncovered who the Watcher truly was. At number 7 spot, we have the Hindenburg Hangar. On May 6, 1937, a German passenger airship known as the LZ-129 Hindenburg was engulfed in flames and destroyed in an attempt to dock with its mooring mast at the Lakehurst Naval Air Station. Inside the airship was 97 people, and after the fire consumed the hangar, there were a total of 35 fatalities. This news eventually broke out and would immediately mark the end of the airship era. And even though the accident occurred almost 90 years ago, it's said that the air station is haunted by the ghosts of the former passengers of the Hindenburg. More specifically, this supernatural activity is mostly found inside of Hangar 1 or the Hindenburg Hangar. Here, some visitors claim to smell the scent of burning flesh as if the fire accident is happening all over again. Overnight workers of the air station also claim to hear someone walking inside of the hangar when it's confirmed that no one else is there. They usually leave the hangar alone due to these reasons, but regardless, that hangar has a very bad vibe to it, and I wouldn't be surprised that it's somewhat cursed in some way. At number 6 spot, we have Clinton Road. First of all, this is probably the only road in the US where I read that many haunting experiences where I wouldn't even want to consider driving on this road at all. I'm not even lying. This road went through it all. Satanic rituals, UFOs, mythical creatures, ghostly Camaros, and even hate groups. After all of this history, it makes sense why many people consider this to be the most haunted road in the United States. However, the most infamous story about this road has to be the Ghost Boy Bridge. So apparently, if you place a quarter in the middle of the road at midnight where the yellow line is at one of the bridges over Clinton Brook, otherwise known as the Dead Man's Curve, shortly after, the ghost of a boy will appear right in front of you. Story goes that this is a boy who drowned in the river nearby, and if he appears in front of you, he may push you near to the bridge where he was murdered on. In the hump of our list, we have the Shades of Death Road. Located in Warren County, this is yet another terrifying road to travel on in New Jersey. You're really better off taking a boat in this state, I swear. It's a 2-lane rural road that is around 7 miles in length. Legend of the road tells us of a time many years ago when a car full of teenagers were driving down this road to get to their prom. However, the road was extremely slippery that night, and when the car took a sharp turn, the car lost control and fell into a ditch, killing every single teenager in the vehicle. Nowadays, if you find that this road is very slippery, especially during a rainstorm, chances are you may catch a glimpse of one of the girl teenagers still wearing her prom dress. And some have even picked her up only to find that she disappears out of nowhere before arriving at her destination. The forest around this road has also been the site of many grisly murders and disappearances, and after many countless reports, this street was eventually given the name Death. At a number 4 spot, we have the Pines Barrens. Over 1 million acres and 7 counties in New Jersey make up the densely forested Pine Barrens. During the colonial era, the region was home to numerous enterprises, including paper mills and even sawmills. When coal was eventually discovered to the west in Pennsylvania, people eventually left the mills and neighboring communities, leaving behind ghost towns and some claim a few paranormal wanderers. The Jersey Devil is without a doubt the most well-known inhabitant of the Pine Barrens. The monster, which had leathery wings and hooves, was said to have been Deborah Lee's 14th child and born in 1735. Since then, has been terrorizing South Jersey homeowners and killing cattle after flying up the Lee's chimney and into the Pine Barrens. Eventually, a bounty was out for the devil, but no one was able to capture it, and has since remained a mystery ever since. At a number 3 spot, we have the Flanders Hotel. Alongside Jersey Shore is the infamous Flanders Hotel on 11th and Boardwalk in Ocean City. This hotel was first completed in 1923, and after its opening, it immediately became very famous among tourists and locals alike. I mean, it had property alongside the boardwalk and was very modern compared to the other hotels in the time. However, as the guests started to pile up at this hotel, many would be leaving with an experience they didn't expect. It was found that there was hundreds of reports claiming that the hotel had supernatural activity within it. However, the most common story is that of a ghost of a young woman looking for something in the hotel. Many people claim to see this woman in white wearing a wedding gown who always seemed to be looking for something on the floor. The story goes that this woman was named Emily, and during World War I, her husband never ended up returning. So it's said that her spirit is still at the hotel in hopes that her husband will finally return and she will find the ring that he was going to give her. At a number 2 spot, we have the Cave Grave. In the town of Newton lies a quiet small graveyard situated alongside Route 621. Though the majority of the stones from the 19th and 20th century are upright limestone or granite, there is one memorial that is quite unique from the rest. It is a headstone located about 50 yards outside the cemetery's boundaries, which actually closes the entrance to a cave. Inscribed on the stone are the names of James, Margaret, and J. Howard Lewis, and the year 1909. Story goes that all 3 of these people were young children when they passed away. It all started when Margaret went into the cave and eventually got lost. So the boys decided to go in as well to save their sister, but they would meet the same type of fate and disappear into the cave's abyss. After several rescue missions were done, the bodies of the children were just never found. Many cave explorers claim that the cave has some of the most supernatural activity within it. Many people claim to hear the voices of these children, while others claim that Margaret is haunting the cave by appearing to explorers in her dirty dress. All the way at a number 1 spot, we have the Trenton Psychiatric Hospital. Trenton Psychiatric Hospital, originally named New Jersey State Lunatic Asylum, has a long history of helping mentally ill patients and even harming them. The hospital opened in 1848 and welcomed 86 patients. The first superintendent, Horace, was a good man and provided excellent care for all the people in his custody. Then it took a turn for the worse when Dr. Henry Cotton took over. The doctor believed he could cure mental illness by removing organs. He believed that infections cause mental illness, so he tested it by removing his patients' teeth, limbs, or any body part with slight signs of infection. This would cause dozens of patients to pass away, and many claim that you can hear the screams of his patients inside of the walls of the hospital to this day. Others even claim to see the apparition of Dr. Cotton himself and other ghosts with missing limbs. Unfortunately, after his passing in 1933, a review found his medical procedures caused 45% of his patients to perish. The irony was, the doctor was clinically insane as well. At a number 10 spot, we have the Tommyknockers. The legend of the Tommyknockers originates from the state of New Mexico. The legend follows a group of miners when they stumbled upon a strange and powerful object buried deep within the earth. As they began to excavate it, they were overcome by its strange energy, which transformed them into these bizarre, violent creatures. These creatures were known as the Tommyknockers and were infamous for their ability to knock on the walls and ceilings of mines, warning other miners to stay away. The legend goes on to say that the Tommyknockers were incredibly powerful, with superhuman strength and the ability to control the minds of those around them. They all roamed the mines, causing destruction and mayhem wherever they went. Despite their fearsome reputation, some believe that the Tommyknockers could be reasoned with, and attempted to communicate with them in order to understand their motivations. While some people, on the other hand, believe that the legend of the Tommyknockers is based on a real event that occurred in New Mexico, which had a bunch of trapped miners. However, others viewed a purely fictional tale. tale. Over the years, many people have come forward to speak about their encounter with the Tommyknocker, which only adds to this creature's mystery more. At a number 9 spot, we have a witch's heart. The legend of the witch's heart in New Mexico tells the story of a powerful witch who lived in the forest near a small village. She was said to be able to cast spells and control the elements, and many people were afraid of her because of that. One day, the witch fell in love with a young man from the village, and she cast a spell on him to make him fall in love in return. The young man, however, did not want to be with this witch and tried to resist her spell at all costs. The witch became very angry and threatened to destroy the village if the young man did not return her love. Talk about needy. The villagers, who were afraid for their lives, pleaded with the young man to give in to the witch's demands, but the young man was brave and refused to give into it. Now the witch was extremely pissed, and she decided to cast a powerful spell that caused the ground to shake and the trees to sway. She summoned a storm that raged for 3 days and 3 nights, causing destruction and chaos throughout the entire village. Finally, the young man, with the help of other villagers, was able to confront the witch and break her spell. The witch's heart was filled with so much anger and hatred that it just turned to stone, and she was never seen again. The villagers say that if you listen closely on a stormy night, you can still hear the witch's heart beating beneath the ground, a reminder of the power of love and the dangers of anger and hatred. At a number 8 spot, we have Haunted Mesa. The legend of the Haunted Mesa in New Mexico dates back to the early 1800s. According to the legend, the mesa was once home to a Native American tribe who lived in harmony with the land and its natural resources. But as time passed by, the tribe grew greedy and began to exploit the land. They would strip it of its resources and cause great harm to the environment because of it. As a punishment for their actions, the spirits of the land rose up and cursed the tribe, causing them to be consumed by a terrible darkness. The tribe was never seen again, and the mesa has been haunted ever since by the spirits of the land. They are said to still roam the area at night, searching for those who dare to desecrate the land. Many people have reported strange and eerie occurrences on the Haunted Mesa, including ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and mysterious lights. Some have even claimed to see the ghosts of the Native American tribe still wandering the mesa in search of redemption. Despite these stories, the Haunted Mesa remains a popular destination for hikers and adventurers who are drawn to its rugged beauty and eerie atmosphere. Some say the spirits of the land are still watching over the mesa, protecting it from those who would seek to harm it. So if you hike here, stride carefully. At a number 7 spot, we have a Witch's Bridge. The Witch's Bridge is a legendary structure said to be located in New Mexico, although the exact location is unknown. According to the legend, the bridge was built by a woman who was shunned by the community because they believed she was a witch. The woman, who was determined to get her revenge, constructed this bridge using her own blood and bone, imbuing it with dark magic as well. As the story goes, anyone who crosses the bridge will be cursed with bad luck and misfortune for their entire lives. Some say that the bridge is guarded by the spirit of the witch, who emerges at night to haunt and terrorize hikers. Others believe that the curse can only be lifted by performing a complex ritual at the side of the bridge. Despite the legend, there is actually no evidence of a bridge matching the description in New Mexico. It is likely the story is a tall tale or a piece of folklore, rather than a true account of events. However, that does not stop people from being intrigued by the legend and people going out searching for this bridge. At a number 6 spot, we have a man in the black hat. The man in the black hat is a mysterious figure who is said to haunt the deserts of New Mexico. Some say that the man in the black hat was a gunfighter or a bandit who roamed the desert, preying on travelers and settlers who ventured too far from civilization. Others claim that he was a ghost or a spirit haunting the land and seeking revenge on those who had wronged him in life. Despite the many different variations of the legend, one thing remains constant. The man in the black hat was a fearsome and dangerous figure, feared by all those who came in contact with him. He is said to wear a black hat, a long coat, and a pair of guns by his side, and was said to be incredibly fast and extremely deadly with a gun. There's even one story of him single-handedly defeating a group of 10 raiders in less than a minute in an attempt to just save some settlers. Despite his heroic deeds, however, the man in the black hat was never seen again, and his fate remains a mystery to this day. Some say that he simply vanished into the deserts, never to be seen again, while others believe that he met his end at the hands of another enemy. Maybe he finally found peace and moved on to the afterlife. Haven't we thought about that? In the hump of our list, we have the hanging tree. The legend legend of the hanging tree in New Mexico dates back to the 1800s when the area was a wild and lawless frontier. According to the legend, the hanging tree was a large tree located in the center of town, where criminals and outlaws were brought to justice by being hanged from its sturdy branches. The most famous story associated with the hanging tree is that of a notorious outlaw named Billy the Kid, who is said to have been hanged from the tree after being captured by a posse of vigilantes. Despite its reputation as a place of justice and punishment, the hanging tree was also said to be cursed, and many people believe that anyone who were hung from this tree would be doomed to haunt the town for eternity. Over the time, the tree became a symbol of fear and dread, and people avoided it at all costs, even during the day. Eventually, the town decided to cut down the hanging tree and burn it to the ground in an effort to rid the town of its dark history and the supposed curse that was said to be associated with it. Today, all that remains of the hanging tree is a small plaque on the spot where it once stood. At a number 4 spot, we have a witch's ladder. The legend of the witch's ladder in New Mexico tells the story of a powerful witch who lived in the mountains and was known for casting spells and curses on those who crossed her. One day, a group of travelers stumbled upon her cabin and asked for shelter for the night. The witch agreed, but she secretly cast a curse on them. Desperate to break the curse, the travelers sought help from a wise woman who told them that they must climb to the top of the mountain and gather a handful of the witch's hair in order to break the curse for good. The travelers managed to do this, but the witch chased after them using all the spells she knew. Using the hair as a talisman, the travelers outran the witch and made their way back down the mountain, where they burned the hair and finally broke the curse. From that day on, the mountain was known as the witch's ladder. Despite the fact that the legend of the witch's ladder is just a story, it continues to be told and retold in the American Southwest, reminding us of the power and determination and the importance of standing up to those who seek to do us harm. At number 3 spot, we have the curse of the full moon. The curse of the full moon is a popular tale told to many in New Mexico, and it involves a powerful medicine man who placed a curse on the land to protect it from the actions of early European settlers. The legend goes that the medicine man was a powerful shaman who had the ability to communicate with the spirits of the land and the animals that lived there. He was deeply connected to the natural world, and he would have a great reverence for the land and its inhabitants. However, when the European settlers arrived, they began to disregard the sacredness of the land and its inhabitants. They would cut down trees, hunt down the animals, and they would pollute the waters. The medicine man was outraged by the settlers' actions, and he decided to curse the land with a very powerful spell. And whenever the moon was full, the curse was said to be at its strongest, causing even more misfortune for those who dared to defy the spirits. Over time, the legend became well known throughout the region, and this is when people began to fear the power of the spirits and the curse. At a number 2 spot, we have the ghost lights. The legend of the ghost lights in New Mexico dates back to the time of the Native Americans who inhabited the region. According to the legend, the ghost lights were spirits of the dead who roamed the earth in search of their loved ones. These spirits were said to be the souls of warriors who were killed in battle, or of women and children who had died of disease or other natural causes. The ghost lights were said to appear as glowing orbs of light that floated through the air, moving silently and without any apparent direction. Many people have claimed to have seen the ghost lights and described them as eerie and settling, and some even reported feeling a sense of fear or dread when the lights were present. Despite this, however, many people also found that the ghost lights to be fascinating and mysterious, and they often went out of their way to try and catch a glimpse of these elusive spirits. In the recent years, the legend of the ghost lights in New Mexico has taken on a new dimension, with some people claiming to have captured video footage or photographs of the light. So if you guys want to see, go search it up on Google, and I promise you, you'll find one photo with it. At a number 1 spot, we have the Taos hum. The Taos hum is a mysterious low-frequency sound that has been reported in the town of Taos, New Mexico. It is described as a faint droning sound that is similar to the hum of a distant engine or the drone of a bee. Some people claim to hear the hum constantly, while others hear it occasionally. The source of the Taos hum is unknown, and there are many theories about what could be causing it. Some believe that it is a natural phenomenon caused by geological activity or atmospheric conditions. Others speculate that it is the result of human activities such as underground military bases or secret experiments. One of the most popular theories of this is caused by aliens. According to the theory, the hum is a signal or communication from an extraterrestrial civilization. Some people even claim to have experienced strange encounters or sightings of unidentified flying objects in the area where the hum is heard. Despite the many theories, no one has been able to definitely explain the Taos hum. The phenomenon remains a mystery and continues to fascinate and intrigue those who have experienced it. Some even claim that the hum has a strange, almost hypnotic effect on those who hear it, causing them to feel disoriented or dizzy. Coming in at number 10, we have 13 Curves. This is a very dangerous road in Marcellus, New York, named the 13 Curves. Over the past 60 years since its construction, this road claimed the lives of many drivers from unfortunate accidents. None are more notorious than the story of a couple on their wedding day. Drivers claim they see a young woman dressed in a bloody white wedding gown walking along the road looking for her groom. All of the accidents on this road are said to be associated with this one woman, since many of the survivors of these accidents claim that the last thing they saw before crashing was in fact this woman in white. This story is very similar to La Llorona if you guys remember my past videos. That is in the Texas video. How the woman passed away in the first place remains a complete mystery, but some claim that on their wedding night, the couple drove on these winding roads, but on one of the curves they lost control and ended up in a nearby creek, with both of them passing away. Other drivers claim that they enter into their cars, and many of them become startled and crash when they look in their rearview mirror to see this bloody apparition. At a number 9 spot, we have the Fordham University Spirit Story. Before we begin, scenes from The Exorcist were shot here, so it was probably for good reason since they wanted to shoot a horror film at this university filled with the supernatural. In the summer of 2003, RAs in the place noticed that in one room the beds were propped up rather than lying on the floor. It wasn't until one day an RA awoke from knocking on his door. When he opened it, he saw a Jesuit priest who said he would take care of the mattresses. Except when the RA tried to figure out who the priest was, he discovered that the only Jesuit priest bearing that description had passed away 10 years ago. That's not all the ghosts within this university. It's said that the spirit of a little girl who has been seen in the bathrooms is said to lurk and peek behind the shower curtains. Many other students revealed that they had sleep paralysis when inside the dorms, even though they had no such thing prior. Lastly, other students report being woken up due to the feeling of someone grabbing their neck and tugging their legs as if someone wants to drag them. At a number 8 spot, we have Rochester's White Lady. There's a white lady scary urban legend in almost all cultures, so I had to mention one in New York as well. In East Mendon Park, visitors claim to see a crying woman asking where her daughter is. The story goes that in the early 1800s, a woman named Elisa lived in the area with her farmer husband. After a seemingly good start to their new home in Rochester, tragedy struck when Elisa's daughter suddenly disappeared. The story of her disappearance varies, but the most popular one is that the daughter asked Elisa if she can walk to the lake, but she never ended up returning. Regardless of what version you believe, the result is the same. People see the white lady roam the perimeters of the lake, constantly wailing and asking for the location of her daughter. People claim that she is more aggressive towards men, but appears as more heartfelt and sorrowful for women. This could be because women are more likely to assist her in finding her daughter, but much of it is unknown. At a number 7 spot, we have the White Horse Tavern. This tavern was established all the way back in 1673, making it America's oldest tavern, as you can see from the sign in the front of the building. During the 18th century, the owner of the bar was reported to be a pirate and rum smuggler, and when the British authorities were hunting for him, he hid out in this tavern during the Revolutionary War and brought in many other soldiers with him, where a lot of them would pass away in that tavern. The most activity in the tavern is said to be located on the 2nd floor in the master bedroom. Story goes that a young girl passed away from smallpox in that room, and many guests hear the little girl singing, and some workers claim they see a little girl running around with a lemon and lime knife looking to attack unsuspecting victims. And remember that pirate owner I mentioned? Yeah, he would end up murdering someone in that very room, but that's all up for speculation still. Regardless, the world's oldest tavern had to have a few of their own ghost stories. At a number 6 spot, we have the Rolling Hills Asylum. Located in East Bethany, New York, this asylum was originally named the Genesee County Poor Farm. A poorhouse is a place where orphan children, families, the elderly, and where physically and mentally handicapped people go. All the people who passed away at the asylum were buried on the property grounds, which led many people to believe to be haunted throughout the entire area. The favorite entity spotted there is called Roy Crouse. The owner had encounter with Roy the ghost. One day she went in and a rat went across the room. The rat startled her, and then she went to scream and then left the asylum. The next day when she came back, she noticed a rat that startled her was found dead on the stairs with blood oozing out of it. Above that was a bloody handprint, presumably with the blood of the rat. She believes it was Roy helping her, as the rat scared her pretty bad. Right in the hump of our list, we have the Curse of 1940. The Curse of 1940, or the Dutton's Curse, was a hex that was believed to cause NHL's New York Rangers not to win a Stanley Cup between 1941 all up until 1993. For all you non-hockey fans, the New York Rangers were very successful in their early years when they took 3 Stanley Cups, 1928, 1933, and 1940. After a 54-year wait, they won another Stanley Cup in 1994, but many fans believe the reason they haven't touched gold in so long is because of this curse. This was because in the 1939-40 season, the mortgage of the Madison Square Garden, which is the place where the Rangers played, was paid off, which led to management to burn the entire mortgage in the bowl of the cup. This led many to believe that the hockey gods put a curse on them. For example, in the 1950 Stanley Cup Finals, the Rangers had to play in the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto for their home ice, which could be related to the fact that the MSG burned their mortgage, forcing them to play in another city, hence why they didn't win that year. I know sports curses are not scary at all, but for New York Rangers fans, this is the most terrifying thing they heard all year. At our number 4 spot, we have Palmyra Historical Museum. As the name suggests, this museum is located in Palmyra, New York. This building is thought to be over 200 years old and once served as a tavern and a hotel. It is now open to the public as a museum, but there's a reason why this one is on the list. The story goes that 6 days before Christmas 1964, a fire raged a small home which had Ruth Anna Breeden, her husband Paul, and 6 children inside. It was a supposed flash fire which engulfed the entire house quickly. The husband managed to escape, but the mother and her 6 children were found burnt in the basement underneath a mattress. Although the fire didn't happen in the museum per se, it sits on the home's foundation, meaning the basement is the exact same. This is why many guests claim to catch the scent of ash in the basement, because this is where the woman and her children lost their life. In the museum, guests also report toys being flown off shelves and even feeling their hair and clothes being tugged on. All the way at our number 3 spot, we have Vale Cemetery. After being opened in 1857, the historic Vale Cemetery became the largest cemetery in Schenectady, New York. After many years, guests will report some pretty eerie paranormal activity going on inside the cemetery. Many people had come forward, all reporting the same phenomenon, saying that the statues would bleed from their eyes. It's very important to note that all the people that came forward were not related in any sort of way, making all these accounts really genuine. Other people visiting the cemetery also claim that they've seen figures sitting in the trees above the tombstones and even full-blown apparitions of crying ghosts. The cemetery now has a total of 33,000 assigned plots, making it a spiritual hub. At our number 2 spot, we have the ghost ship of the Hudson River. Back when New York was just a small village, reports surfaced of a spooky ship floating on the river. Seen at dusk on foggy days, many say it was the spirit of the Henry Hudson's Half Moon ship. One of the reports came from an anonymous source of the weather dork that they referred to as Samuel. He was spending the day fishing on the shore of the Hudson, but then an odd ship caught his gaze. He claimed the ship was floating on air above the water, but as the ship got closer to him, he found that it had no crew on deck and had 3 empty masts. Regardless of the fact that it was floating, the ship could only be heard when it got closer, and the wood would be creaking as if it was on water when it wasn't. Eventually, a storm came and slowly brought the ship back into the river, slowly disappearing into the darkness and the rain. If you listen to this story and get some Flying Dutchman vibes, you're right. All the way at our number 1 spot, we have the Amityville Horror House. It all started with an invitation from a news anchorman in Long Island. All the Warrens knew that there was a tragedy inside of the home, and the owners left after only living at the home for little less than a month. After Ed Warren spoke to the owner of the home, George Lutz, he quickly agreed to have them investigate. George was so horrified by the house that he only left the keys to the house and completely left the area. When the Warrens were in the house, they described feeling a powerful negative energy, calling it, quote, diabolically infested. Ed then entered the basement and felt immediate pressure, which pinned him on the floor. He commanded to Jesus Christ to leave, and it lifted it off of him. This was no regular paranormal case. The Warrens were unaware that 6 people were murdered in that home 7 months ago, where Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family in that one night. At our number 10 spot, we have the Devil's Tramping Ground. Located in the dense forest of the Harper Crossroad area in Bear Creek, North Carolina, lies a camping ground known as the Devil's Tramping Ground. And I know, the name alone should tell you all about the place, because in local lore, they suggest this is the location where the devil, quote, tramps. And this has caused a small circle of area to become lifeless and never have the ability to grow anything. Locals have tried to revive the area by planting various seeds and also using fertilizers, but nothing seems to be able to fully grow within this circle of land. Some historians believe this was also an ancient meeting place for local Native American tribes. They would come here to do ceremonial dances and other festivals. But in the 1930s, newspapers were hit with the news that a beast was guarding these grounds. The story read, quote, coon and possum hunters and their dogs have been on more than one occasion chased from the vicinity of the Devil's Tramping Ground by a ferocious beast said to resemble a black bear. At a number 9 spot, we have Dana Auditorium. Located in Greensboro, North Carolina is Guilford College. This place was built all the way back in 1837, so it went through countless waves of students. Most of the places in the college are completely normal, but in the 1960s, the Dana Auditorium was constructed, and it housed the Guilford College Music Department. However, they failed to realize the history of the grounds they built on. on. Across the street from the campus are graves of men dating back to the 18th century who passed away during the Revolutionary War, and many believe that the location where the Dana Auditorium stands is the same location of the hospital used to take care of these soldiers, and where many ended up passing away. Many students and staff members recall feelings of cold spots and the feeling of being grabbed by something they just can't see. Others report a soldier wearing clothing from the 18th century, and they say it's a soldier who passed away at the former hospital, but he's not harmful. Instead, he just acts as a protector of the area. At number 8 spot, we have the Ship of Fire. Off the coast of Ocracoke Island, it's said that on the night of the new moon each September, you are able to spot a ghostly ship that appears out of nowhere, engulfed in flames, and it slowly goes closer and closer to land before completely vanishing out of thin air. The legend goes that this was the ship of the Palatines. These were a group of German Protestants who originally left England back in the day. As they were on the boat, they pretended to be poor and hide their golds and coins and other extremities from the corrupt captain and his crew. And this is the part when they messed up, because when they began to see the shores of North America, they just started to celebrate, showing all their valuables in a rush to get off of the land. The captain and his crew began to see the amount of wealth their passengers had and decided to postpone the docking and wait till the next day. So during the night, the captain and his crew proceeded to murder every Palatine on board, which included all sorts of ages. Then they left on small boats and they torched the entire ship behind. At number 7 spot, we have the vampire beast of Bladenboro. During the 1950s, something was going out and leaving behind a lot of dead dogs around the woods of Bladen County. Eventually, news outlets would begin to report a creature that is so strong that it's just going out and attacking everything in sight. This animal was reported to be draining the blood of neighborhood animals, 8 dogs, a family of kittens, and at least 1 lamb. Early eyewitnesses report that the beast was around 100 pounds, and many thought it was just another wolf or mountain lion. However, it wasn't until the beast attacked its first and only human. The next day, the police chief said the town of 790 people was as quiet as he's ever known it. Eventually, everyone was strapped up and were ready to kill whatever beast that was out there on a killing spree. However, the beast seemed to have vanished from the town. At number 6 spot, we have Lake Norman. You guys are gonna get sick of this, but I guess there's literally a version of the Loch Ness Monster in every single state of the US. North Carolina's version is Normie.
We can't kill a normie.
Lake Norman is the largest man-made body of fresh water in the state, and ever since, it's been under heavy speculation of what lies underneath the depths. For example, prior to the year 2000, there weren't many reports of alligators, but nowadays it seems like they're native to the lake. So that brings up the question, what else became native to Lake Norman? Many people believe the answer to that question is a beast closely resembling the Loch Ness Monster. It's a long serpentine creature with scaly fins, and it's been reported to chase fast boats and even bump into water skiers and swimmers. On one occasion, a professional scuba diver encountered this creature and said it bit off one of his flippers clean off. However, others believe it could just be a mutant fish because this is a man-made lake. Who knows, it could be from all the pollution. In the hump of our list, we have the Balsam Mountain Inn. Located in Balsam, North Carolina is a wooden hotel now known as the Grand Old Lady Hotel. But for the context of everything supernatural, we're just gonna call it by its original name, the Balsam Mountain Inn. This hotel was built all the way back in 1908 by 2 brothers-in-laws, Joseph Kenny and Walter Christie, in hopes to expand their business. While other hotels in the area were failing to start, the Balsam Mountain Inn was in a very good area, so they had plenty of business. By the late 1980s, the entire hotel was emptied out, however, as all things must come to an end. Then in December of 2017, a business person by the name of Marzina bought the hotel, but her first warnings were from the former owners and staff claiming that it was haunted. Marzina decided to report her own findings, and after sleeping in one of the rooms, she claimed to have been woken up in the middle of the night and have her blanket taken off of her. At number 4 spot, we have Brown Mountain Lights. In Pisgah National Forest is the Brown Mountain, and many visitors and locals have reported a series of ghost lights or orbs that pop out of nowhere. According to Cherokee history, a significant battle between the Cherokee and the Catawba Indians took place at Brown Mountain around the year 1200 AD. The unexplained lights are thought to be the result of Indian maidens still looking for their husbands who perished in the battle. These lights can be seen in many different colors, including white, red, yellow, orange, and even blue. On top of that, the lights have been inspected by the US government 3 times, numerous times by private companies, and frequently by the Appalachian University students. And no one has been able to give a proper proper explanation to this. And to this day, these lights will always be a mystery. So the best way to find out about them is just to go and check them out for yourself. At our number 3 spot, we have the Highland Hospital. Located in Asheville, North Carolina is the infamous Highland Hospital. It was built in 1904 by Dr. Robert S. Carroll, and it became a mental institution to take care of those who had nervous diseases. As the years went by, the hospital would decay from the inside out. In 1948, a fire engulfed a section of the hospital, causing the deaths of American novelist and painter Zelda Fitzgerald along with 8 other patients. For those who don't know, Zelda Fitzgerald was the wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald, who is the one who wrote The Great Gatsby. And she was in the hospital because she had to undergo an electroshock therapy but got trapped due to this fire. Nowadays, the place is a recovery home for teens and young adults, but many of the residents and workers claim to see the spirit of Zelda. She can be seen walking through the halls, and others even report talking to Zelda, but much of that conversation is a whole lot of confusion, and she ends up vanishing by the end of it. At number 2 spot, with the Biltmore Estate. Originally built to be a vacation home for George Washington Vanderbilt, the Biltmore Estate was a grand mansion that happened to be the largest home in the country at the time. Several past guests and even employees have related tales of hearing a voice continually speaking the name George in the hallways. It is believed that Edith Vanderbilt herself, who is thought to be another spirit that is said to also reside in the mansion, is walking the halls and maybe looking for her husband. Some of the groundskeepers who worked that night had overheard party-like conversations, glass clinking, and laughter. However, the only issue is that nobody is hosting any sort of party during these times. The family never had a pet, but visitors claim to see a headless orange cat walking out in the garden and usually shows up before bad luck strikes a person. The area around the estate is pretty haunted as well because back in the day, many hangings were done and these spirits are still trapped in the area. At number 1 spot, we have the Helen's Bridge. In Asheville, North Carolina is one of the coolest looking, but also one of the scariest bridges in America. You guys can be the judge of that by the end of this point. It's been said that Helen's Bridge has been haunted for nearly 100 years since its construction in 1909. The bridge was created in order to have a roadway connecting a mansion to the rest of Asheville, but it just made sense at the time, right? So how did the bridge get its name? Story goes that a single woman named Helen lived in Asheville with her infant daughter. One day while cooking, a large fire engulfed the entire home, causing her to rush out of it, leaving her daughter behind. The entire house would end up burning down, and after she received news of her daughter's passing, she just completely broke down mentally. Then one day Helen decided to take a walk to the nearby woods, and before coming across this bridge to the mansion, she hung herself on one of the steel posts. People who have driven to the bridge had recalled dealing with car trouble despite no prior symptoms. Issues like drained batteries, engine stalling, and other mechanical issues were said to have been reported. Coming in at number 10 spot, we have Trollwood Park. In Fargo, North Dakota is the Trollwood Park. And at first glance, it really looks like your typical park, but that should all change once you realize it was built directly on top of a cemetery and former asylum. Obviously, those who built the park knew of this and already planned to move many of the bodies away, but it's confirmed that they didn't manage to take out all of them. As briefly mentioned, the Cass County Hospital was built on top of the park around 1895, and over the years many people were left buried with no tombstones or even a marking of their location, which is why many remain in this park to this day. One notorious ghost that haunts the area is a woman wearing a blue dress that dances around the willow trees, and other visitors here claim that the ghosts here like to call out names in order to get people to lay them to rest finally. And oddly enough, in one instance, erosion caused one of the graves to resurface, causing one visitor to trip on real human bones. Imagine you're just playing in a playground only to stumble upon century-old human bones. At the number 9 spot with the Mini Washitu. The Dakota tribe has talked about a river monster named the Mini Washitu that has terrorized the Missouri River since the beginning of time. This creature is a 7 to 8 feet tall bipedal with bison-like fur, one eye like a cyclops, and a single horn above that one eye, and it also has a very spiny backbone. This creature wasn't known for its bloodthirsty tendencies or even its power. Instead, those who have seen the creature ended up just going crazy, and the only way for them to feel any sort of peace is death. One man wrote about this creature saying that he spotted it upstream in the Missouri River. He said it was red in color with hair like buffalo, but when he saw it, everything went dark. And the last thing he wrote was that he was walking home, but when he arrived, he lost all sort of reason and passed away in a couple of minutes. Kinda sounds like the Netflix movie Bird Box, doesn't it? So best to keep your blindfolds with you in North Dakota. At a number 8 spot, we have the Stairway to Hell. Yup, if you're looking for a direct way to hell, this place might be for you. Jokes aside, located in Tegas, North Dakota is what many claim to be the Stairway to Hell. And with a claim like that, there must be something very terrifying about it. The town of Tegas is now completely abandoned, but when it opened up in the early 1900s, some crazy things happened here. There were rumors of an old Lutheran church that specialized in satanic worship, and some even claim that they did real human sacrifices here. Although the location of the church is not exactly known, what is known that it has been partially burned down, but there is still some who claim to have found it. They say the church is marked with an upside down cross at the front, and apparently everyone who has come down to the basement has never come back up. Now it has claimed so many lives that people started to think it was a stairway to hell. But hey, I guess the only way to find out about this is to walk it down yourself. Are you interested? At number 7 spot, we have the Sandhaven Sanatorium. The Sandhaven Sanatorium, otherwise known as a Sanatorium of Death, was built in 1911, and ever since, it has been a hot spot for paranormal investigators due to the dark history attached to the place. When the place was active, much of it was used to treat those with tuberculosis, and the issue is that the cure didn't come until 1946, which gave around 30 years of deaths due to this illness. Eventually, the need for the sanatorium died down, and the place ended up closing in 1989. After being repurchased, it was found that over 1,000 people passed away inside of the sanatorium, with the majority of them being in unmarked graves. To make matters worse, many satanic worshippers has made their way here to perform rituals using pentagrams and even sacrifice. Eventually, ghost adventurers made their way here as well, and even spoke with another spirit inside of the property. Others believe that patients of this place were badly mistreated, which could give more reason to all these hauntings. At a number 6 spot, we have Devil's Lake. When you get a name like this, you can't be surprised if anything bad happens to you here. The thing most people worry about when they step foot into this water is the Devil's Lake monster. The legend goes that centuries ago, many Siletz Indians vanished into the lake after their vessel was pulled down by giant tentacles. When the first Christian missionaries arrived in the Lincoln City area, local Native Americans told them of an octopus-like creature that appeared during periods of long drought. They even host a festival every single year for this creature, and back in those days, they used to sacrifice various animals into the lake. But obviously that's not done now. But as with any other sea monster, this creature still remains a huge mystery because in some accounts, people describe it as a Loch Ness Monster lookalike, but in others, people lay claim that it resembles a large giant octopus or something like the Kraken. In the Humphrey list, we have White Lady Lane. Sometime in the early 20th century in the town of Walhalla, there was a 16-year-old girl named Anna Story who met with a much older man named Samuel Khalil, who was out selling items in the marketplace. As soon as Samuel saw Anna, he fell deeply in love and went straight to the mother to ask for permission to be with her daughter. Since there was a huge age gap and the fact that the daughter was only 16 years old, the mother denied any sort of romantic relationship. However, she made an offer, which was to allow her to use all of Sam's items, and in a year's time, she would grant him the permission he wanted. Samuel agreed and gave the mother much of his valuable items. Then we fast forward a year, and Samuel comes back to the town of Walhalla to settle his deal and get the daughter. However, when he confronted Anna's mother, she still denied and wouldn't even give back the items she borrowed. So in a rage, Samuel pushed the mother aside and took the daughter, but there was an immediate struggle. So he grabbed his firearm, shot Anna point blank, killing her immediately. Sam would then try to end his own life and the mother's, but was unsuccessful and was later arrested. Now locals claim that Anna's spirit can be found on White Lady Lane, wearing the same white nightgown the night she was murdered. At number 4 spot, we have Chateau de Moore. The Chateau de Moore in Medora, North Dakota is a very historical site here. First, it was built by Marquis de Moore back in 1883 for a hunting lodge. He, his wife Medora, and their children lived in the house for many years with no issues, until one day Medora decided to go out traveling and never ended up returning back. Ever since that occasion, the family was terrorized by her spirit to the point when they had to move out of the hunting lodge altogether. And you can still visit the home, and much of the family's belongings are still found inside, which led many people to believe that Medora's spirit is still inside the home as well. This is because various visitors claim that a voice is telling them to get out of the house, while others recall that the house is filled with all sorts of unexplained cold spots. At a number 3 spot, we have the Stack Monster. In Bismarck, North Dakota lies the infamous Liberty Memorial Building. It was originally built in 1924 and is the oldest building on the Capitol grounds. More specifically, the library inside of the building is where many have had strange occurrences. This is because it's said that the library is haunted by a creature known as the Stack Monster. This monster would flicker lights, push people into harm's way, and overnight workers have claimed to hear very loud footsteps in the library when no one else is around. And these hauntings aren't specific to humans only. One time, the former director of the State Historical Society came into the library with his dog, only to see his dog's hair stand up, and it couldn't stop barking at a dark section of the library. At a number 2 spot, we have the NDSU campus. 2 NDSU residence halls are said to be haunted by different spirits. First, we have the ghost of a man who hung himself on a heating pipe within Sarah's Hall. As well, students have mentioned everything from lights going out on entire levels to sensing an odd presence nearby. The 2 areas with the most paranormal activity here are the basement and the 3rd floor. When people enter the basement of the Sarah's Hall, there have been numerous accounts of people who feel a strange feeling of panic and a triggering fight or flight response when they enter. On the other end, we have the Menard Hall, and legend states that one morning after a school dance, a janitor found the bodies of 2 students in the dance room. The case ended up going cold, which is kinda ironic since students who enter this hall report that there are far too many cold spots for it to be considered normal. At number 1 spot, we have the Riverside Cemetery. Opening in 1878, this cemetery, located alongside the Red River in South Fargo, is the largest and oldest cemetery in North Dakota. And this place is possibly the only cemetery where you may hear voices coming from the tombstones. As the number of paranormal occurrences increased at the cemetery, ghost hunters came in and have apparently recorded what sounds like knocking near the doors to several mausoleums. Other visitors have reported that they've seen bizarre, unexplained mist, orbs, and even different strange anomalies that appeared in photos and videos of the area. So if you ever want to see it, go search for a YouTube video of this place and you probably will see why it's haunted. At a number 10 spot, we have Zombie Road. Hidden away in eastern Missouri is Rock Hollow Trail, otherwise known as Zombie Road. It was first built in late 1860s to provide a way to the Merrimack River into the Glencoe and various other railroad tracks. However, as the years went by, this road became notorious for being extremely haunted. Many who travel down this road claim that they're being watched by shadows that lurk behind the woods surrounding the entire road. And there's so much more that happened here. One story is that of a zombie killer who is a psychopathic hermit who lived in these woods and would attack young lovers who were just looking for a place to be alone. And to add to all of that, it's really no surprise this place is haunted because it was built directly on top of the largest Native American burial grounds. Not only are there just natives here, but many were buried here during the Civil War, so this place has been haunted for generations. At our number 9 spot, we have Landers Theater. The Landers Theater in Springfield, Missouri has a very troubled past, which is the reason why many believe this place is still haunted. Opening in 1909, it didn't take long for tragedy to strike this place, because 11 years later in 1920, a fire engulfed much of this theater, which claimed the life of one of the janitors. And he's one of the spirits many performers see, claiming that he stands on top of the balconies watching as they rehearse. Sometime after that, a baby fell down to their death from the 2nd story of the theater, and since that tragedy, many will hear a crying baby in the audience even after hours. And the most famous spot of the theater is the area that separates the 1st and the 2nd floor balconies. Here, many visitors claim to be tapped on their shoulders and whispered at, and this is all because in the 1940s, someone was stabbed to death here, and now their spirit is said to stay here. Nowadays, the theater remains open, and if you really want to see if it's haunted, I would recommend booking a ticket right now. At a number 8 spot, we have Momo the Monster. Momo the Monster, otherwise known as the Missouri Monster, is a 7 feet tall hairy beast that has terrorized the residents of Louisiana, Missouri since the 1970s. The first sighting of the creature took place in July 1971 when Joanne Mills and Mary Rhines spotted the beast up the Mississippi River, describing its large stature and glowing orange eyes. After that report, many family dogs would be found dead along the Mississippi River, and this is when 2 young boys and their sisters spotted the creature holding one of the dogs in its hand. Many of the eyewitnesses claim that the creature reeked of rotten flesh and had growls similar to a bear. Before long, the news media picked up on the story, attracting curiosity seekers and monster hunters from around the country. At number 7 spot, we have the Joplin Spooklight. The Spooklight, otherwise known as the Joplin Spooklight, is a weird phenomenon when there is a supposed ghost light that appears in an area known as the Devil's Promenade, which borders the states of Missouri and Oklahoma. Basically, when you travel along this road, you may see a mysterious orb, and although it has many stories about it, the amount of photos that contain the light is enough to make anyone think that this isn't something normal. One legend of the light talks about a local miner who went back to his home, only to discover that his whole family went missing and his cabin was burned down to the ground. Now his ghost is walking Spooklight Road with a lantern in his hand searching for his family, explaining the light. At a number 6 spot, we have the Ozark Howler. The Ozark Howler, otherwise known as the Nightshade Bear or the Devil Cat, is a mysterious creature that lurks in remote areas of Missouri. This beast is a very intimidating predator, considering it has a body of a bear, stocky legs, glowing red eyes, and even sharp horns. It would be the last thing you want to encounter on your hiking trip. Sightings of this creature have been reported since the 1950s, and between 2005 and 2010, the howler was reported by many more people. The creature got its name from its iconic howl, which is described to be a very deep and the combination of a wolf's howl, an elk's bugle, and the laugh of a hyena. So however you want to imagine that, that's how it would sound like. In more recent years, many people are believing that this creature is nothing more than an eastern cougar or even a black bear, or perhaps even a hybrid of both. And this is because the creature has yet to be photographed, but at least they howl, so if they do exist, you'll have ample time to not get pummeled by this beast. In the hump of our list, we have Phelps Grove Park. The history of Phelps Grove Park is both long and fascinating. It served as both Governor John S. Phelps' house and a tribal village for many Native American people. The park, which spans around 44 acres on East Bennett Street, is very old, but the spirit found inside of this park is much more recent. The story is that one night a bride and the groom were strolling at this park in their carriage, when all of a sudden the groom became jealous, causing the carriage to flip off the bridge upside down. This accident caused the bride to snap her neck, ending her life immediately. Now many locals have seen the ghost bride underneath the bridge, saying that she stands there with her right hand holding the hem of her dress as if she's about to take a step. Apparently she appears here every evening, but if you try to get a closer look, she'll just vanish right in front of you. At our fourth spot, we have Drury University. Drury University in Springfield, Missouri is built right on top of Native American burial grounds. Need I say more? We've seen it in movies, we've heard it in stories. Building on top of native burial grounds is always bound to be a bad idea. Not only the concept of building over people's graves, but this kind of thing tends to have everlasting effects. One of the halls in the university, known as Smith Hall, was built in the grounds of old Victorian houses where one girl passed away after trying to get her teddy bear in a fire. Now many students in the university claim to see this child walking around, and others claim that their stuffed animals move due to this child's ghost. But if that's the case, this is just another one of those Chucky and Annabelle situations. At our number 3 spot, we have Union Station. Union Station in Kansas City is a railroad station that transports both the living and the dead. Built in 1914, this station had millions going through it, which meant that a few deaths were expected to happen within. One of the notorious spirits found here is the ghost of a bank robber named Frank Nash, who along with 4 peace officers was killed during a rescue attempt. Those who are regulars at the station claim to see Nash's spirit around, saying that he is faceless, wearing a suit, tie, and polished shoes. At number 2 spot, we have the Headless Cobbler of Smollett Cave. A creature known as the Headless Cobbler would be spotted in Ava, Missouri during the 1920s. Story goes that 2 young women were walking along Spring Creek at midnight when a man stepped out from the side of the road who appeared to have no head, shoes around his neck, and a Bible around his shoulder. Weird outfit choice, but when you have no head, I guess everything's a fashion statement. In the next year, 2 boys spotted the same thing when they were riding their horses along the same creek when they spotted a headless man floating above the ground. More recent sightings have been at Smollett Cave, where he now hides out, supposedly, and can be heard tapping away as he cobbles shoes. If you happen to see a single light coming from the cave at night, it's said to be the Headless Cobbler holding his lantern. At our number 1 spot, we have Lemp Mansion. The Lemp Mansion is considered to be one of the scariest locations in America, according to Travel Channel. In 1840, Lemp opened a small brewery not far from where the current Gateway Arch is now. It was the most prosperous companies in the region by 1879 and dominated the St. Louis beer market. After his death in August 1862, his son William took over and began major expansions, which only grew the company much more. However, the house would become a curse for their entire family. Inside of the home, there were 3 of the core family members who took their own life, and ever since, many claim that their spirits are bound to this home. In 1949, the mansion was sold off and transformed into a boarding house. It wasn't long before hauntings were reported. Witnesses claimed to see a boy who asked for someone to play with. There were also reports of inexplicable burning sensations, cold spots, slamming doors, and all sorts of other mysterious sounds. At our number 10 spot, we have the Phantom Hitchhiker of Black Horse Lake. Near the city of Great Falls in Cascade County is a tale about a very notorious yet mysterious hitchhiker. If you happen to be coming off of Highway 87 going down Fort Benton, you may encounter a man on the side of the road at night. The area is very flat, so the man is very easy to spot when you're driving down this road. But unlike other people on the side of the roads, this person isn't looking to get a ride. Instead, once your car gets closer, the person is reported to roll over the hood of your car, across the windshield of the vehicle, as if they had been struck. As people began to check on the man after they hit, they realized that they had hit nothing and the person they previously saw just disappeared. Over the years, there have been hundreds of reports that claim the same thing. They drive on this road, then they hit a man, only to find out it was nothing. Many believe this is a spirit of a Native American man who got struck and killed on this road. However, there's still no written document on it. At number 9 spot, we have Sacrifice Cliff. Overlooking Billings, Montana is Sacrifice Cliff. Despite the breathtaking views and scenic paths, this place has a very dark history attached to it. I mean, you probably already know that just by the name alone. Story goes that this cliff was once a peaceful meditation spot for the men of the Crow tribe. When they arrived here, they would be in complete silence, which showed the amount of respect they had for the area. However, a smallpox outbreak hit the area, causing the majority of the Crow tribe to perish within days. So one day, some of the boys returned to their homes from Sacrifice Cliff, only to discover that their entire village, including their family members, had all passed away from smallpox. They were so distraught they didn't see a point in living, so the boys decided to sacrifice themselves over this cliff. They would return back to the cliff with their horses, then they would proceed to blindfold the horse and then ride off these very cliffs to their deaths. Although this is a very sad tale, if you decide to visit this place at night, you may hear the sound of these horses as if they're falling from the cliff to this day. At number 8 spot, we have Flathead Lake Monster. Lurking in Flathead Lake is said to be a monster that closely resembles the Loch Ness Monster. But hey, I swear every place has their own version of it, so here's Montana's version. For those who don't know, Flathead Lake is situated northeast Montana, just in case you guys wanted to avoid this place for your next swim. Many visit this lake for its unprecedented beauty, but since 1889, there's been reports coming in the boatloads about this creature. It's described as a very large eel-like creature that moves around like a snake and is as long as 40 feet. Many say its head is shaped like a bowling ball with multiple humps on its back. No wonder people think this is the Loch Ness Monster. It all started in 1889 when James C. Kerr was making rounds across the lake when he and his passengers discovered this creature. They described it as a whale-like from its sheer size alone. Ever since, there's been hundreds of sightings, but who really knows what lies underneath the depths of this lake? At number 7 spot, we have the Alberta Bear Theater. Located in Billings, Montana as well, is the famous Alberta Bear Theater. The theater was originally named the Fox Theater, but in 1987, the theater was renamed the Alberta Bear Theater in honor of his daughter, Alberta. And this 1,400-seat theater was like any other. It was beautiful on the inside, which housed many professional touring companies and various performing artists. However, most visitors and workers claim to see the same two spirits lurking inside of the theater. This includes one male entity and one female. The male is described as wanting to be noticed, out of sorts, and very possessive, while the female is described as being very benign and very friendly. So let's talk about the guy. It's said that he is the spirit of a past employee who took his own life at the theater, which keeps him there trapped for eternity. So if you guys are looking to come to this theater, be on the lookout for these two. At number 6 spot, we have the Garnet Ghost Town in Coloma. Coloma, Montana is known as the Mystery Camp and is a ghost town located a few miles north of the better known Garnet Ghost Town on the Garnet-Back County Byway. Very little is known about the Coloma settlement other than records indicating that it began in 1893 and experienced high gold mining activity starting in 1896. But by the 1940s, the mines had completely run out and the boom went bust. Eventually, the place would be emptied out and be left abandoned, and this is where many locals claim that the spirits ended up taking over the place. One state historian claims that once the sun sets in Garnet, the spirits of the town historic's residents come alive. Ellen Baumler, the Montana Historical Society's resident ghost whisperer and author, wrote, quote, "At midnight, people have heard ghostly fingers striking piano keys with the music floating across the empty buildings." She continued saying, quote, "Especially during the winter months, visitors see visions and hear unearthly noises. They cause no trouble, and anyone who visits the deserted town in the dead of winter should be prepared to meet them. They hide in the shadows, laugh in the wind, and come out when you least expect them." Right in the hub of our list, we have Bear Canyon. Mashed in between Chestnut Mountain and Mount Ellis is a beautiful stretch of land known as Bear Canyon. It's best known for its scenic hiking trail and is one of the most popular sites in the Bozeman area. And as we all know, a place that is beautiful on the outside is usually hiding something very dark on the inside. According to the Bozeman Paranormal Society, Bear Canyon is a place for spirits and not for humans. Sightings of the paranormal have been recorded since the late 1800s, which is ever since we started to settle inside of that piece of land. Many people have reported seeing a little girl who attempts to lead them off of the trail and into the woods. The little girl targets women, and for those who follow this girl, they will find themselves lost in the middle of the canyon. Others claim to have seen a strange mist on Bear Canyon Road, and many have gone missing when they enter inside of this strange mist. Number 4, Moss Mansion. Built in 1903, this red brick mansion was a turn-of-the-century home. It was 3 stories tall with 28 different rooms inside. The mansion was built for the Moss family, who treated it like their pride and their joy. Eventually, they would have around 6 children and 3 servants occupying the home. Years went by and all was good, until they suffered their first devastating loss. Just 5 years after the house was built, the youngest child named Virginia passed away while she was only 6 years old. Then 40 years later, in 1947, the dad, Preston B. Moss, passed away from a heart attack. Then soon after followed the wife, who passed away from a cerebral hemorrhage. Then 30 years later, another one of the sons named Melville passed away in 1984. This family ended up inhabiting the home from 1903 all the way until 1984. So best believe their deaths in the home have some sort of effect. The mansion has now been turned into a museum, and many visitors report various paranormal activity. Some include a ghostly female voice singing in the billiards room, and many staff members report a cool wind that goes up and around their bodies as they walk through the halls of the mansion. At number 3, we have Bannock Ghost Town. When gold was discovered along Grasshopper Creek in Bannock, Montana, the town went from a ghost town to a blooming community. Following the economic growth, a man named Henry Plummer became the sheriff of the town and the leader of a gang known as the Innocents. Plummer's gang is linked to over 100 murders and robberies, and during his brief time as sheriff, Plummer erected the Bannock Gallows, only to be hanged from them himself after being apprehended by a group of vigilantes. Bannock State Park still has the gallows, but many people who have visited claim that there's too much negative energy and supernatural activity in that specific area. Many claim to even see the spirit of Henry Plummer himself, as he's said to be still pleading for his life. At number 2 spot, we have Little Bighorn Battlefield. The Battle of Little Bighorn occurred on 1876 in the grassy plains of Bighorn River Valley and bluffs that exist around and along the Bighorn River. This was where General Custer and his men were brutally and completely defeated by the Sioux and Cheyenne warriors led by Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull. So best believe a place like this has a few restless spirits. I mean, every battlefield has one. You guys should know this. Visitors and employees have reported strange noises and even seeing full-fledged apparitions of soldiers after dark. Now, near the battlefield cemetery is where the most activity is said to happen. Many visitors claim to have been consumed by the feeling of deep sorrow and loss when they walk the cemetery grounds. And the stone house, which was built in 1894 for the cemetery's caretakers, is home to some of the most terrifying ghost stories. Some include lights aggressively flickering on and off until you leave the home, and others report seeing soldiers with missing limbs, such as missing heads or legs, indicating some of the injuries they went through during the war. At number 1 spot, we have Dude Rancher Lodge. Built in 1940 by Annabelle and Percival Goen, the Dude Rancher Lodge was originally constructed using salvaged bricks from the old St. Vincent's Hospital. The couple ran the hotel together until 1962, where Percival passed away after a car accident. Annabelle continued to run the hotel on her own, though slowly her health began to decline. She lived in an apartment at the hotel and was cared for by her dedicated staff until eventually she was moved to a nursing home. Then on February 2nd, 1983, Annabelle passed away. Since her passing, this lodge has had too many supernatural activities to count. This includes televisions turning on and off while the housekeepers are cleaning the room, knocking on the doors when no one is on the other side, the sound of children running in the halls with no children being present, and a mysterious female voice was even caught on audio tape in the basement of the hotel. If you ever wanted to stay here, then try to avoid rooms 223, 224, and especially 226, which is said to be Annabelle's grandson's room, who took his own life in that room. At number 10 spot, we have the Seven Sisters Road. Located in southeast Nebraska, just outside Nebraska City, is a road that locals call Seven Sisters Road. And if you're trying to find this on a map, it will be named L Street. But I wouldn't recommend taking a road trip down this place. Legend goes that a man had an argument with his parents and his 7 sisters. It got to a point when his whole family hated him and he looked to seek revenge. So one day he waited in the woods outside of his home and waited for his parents to leave. After he forced or baited his sisters one by one outside of the house, he would end up hanging each and every single one of them where this road is situated today. Then eventually a road would be built on this path of the trees, causing them to be shut down. Ever since the construction of the road, this road is said to be haunted by the 7 sisters who were executed. Many who have driven through the area report having problems with their cars stalling, headlights mysteriously dimming, speedometers freezing, and windows that roll up and down seemingly on their own. At our number 9 spot, we have Alliance Theater. On the east side of Nebraska is one of the most iconic buildings in the state, and that is the Alliance Theater. This was built back in 1903, starting off as a hotel, but in 1938, it was then rebranded into Imperial Theater until it switched to the name Alliance. It would host many different performing arts, but it said a few performers passed away inside of the theater. Some were caused by accidents, such as an actress named Mary who passed away after a piece of lighting equipment fell on her. Now, over the years over its existence, many workers at the theater have reported their own ghostly tales. Some include whispers as if someone's right behind them, and shadow figures walking around, and some are even seen performing. Even in 2002, the owner Gerald Bullard had said to reporters that, quote, "If the theater is actually haunted, then the ghosts are very friendly." It still remains open to this day, and many visitors claim to see the spirit of Mary. At our number 8 spot, we have Blackbird Hill. North of Decatur, Nebraska is a hill overlooking the Missouri River, and this hill is said to be infested with spirits. One notorious spirit that most visitors spot is of a young lady who could be screaming near the cliff. Legend goes that in 1840, a young couple in the area fell in love. This relationship carried both of them through school, but soon after they were done, the boy decided to travel abroad. His initial plan was to travel the world, then come back and marry the girl. But after a few months, the man never ended up returning back home. Months turned into years, and eventually the devastated girl gave up and married another man. The new couple then decided to move to a small cabin to what is now Blackbird Hill. And this is when the girl spotted her ex-fiance walking up to the cabin. She was shocked and then confessed a love for the man and went back home to tell her new fiance that she wanted to leave him and have a divorce. The new fiance got very angry and in a rage took her to the nearby cliff and proceeded to jump off together. The ex-fiance arrived, but just too late, only to hear the agonizing scream of his former wife. This occurred on October 17th, and many visitors gather up in this day because it's said that you can still hear her screams down the cliff. At our number 7 spot, we have the Poison Girl at Centennial Hall. Built in 1897 in Valentine, Nebraska, is the historic Centennial Hall. It functions now as a 12-room museum, but before it was originally built to be a high school for the kids in the area. Then in 1947, a young female student was murdered inside of the school. She passed away after playing on her clarinet. This caused everyone to suspect that someone had intentionally poisoned her clarinet reed. Ever since the incident, the school is haunted by this little girl. The teachers will report her in their classrooms after school times, and this would accompany the feeling of dread. Other visitors and students report to hear her clarinet being played in a very ominous way. Now as a museum, visitors still report this little girl roaming the halls. She is said to have tugged on people's clothing as well as placing her clarinet on many of the artifacts inside of the museum in hopes that someone will play it and be poisoned like she was. At number 6 spot, we have radioactive hornets. Although this theory is debunked, it was a crazy one when it was first released in the media because many people didn't know how radiation worked and whatever they said about it would just scare you. Story goes that after the nuclear disasters following World War II in the 1940s, Japan's Fukushima nuclear plant created a giant mutant killer hornet due to their exposure to radiation. The hornets were said to have grown 4 times their size and were reproducing exponentially. Then one year in Nebraska, it was reported that many people were passing away with stings and swelling on their bodies, which led many people to place a blame on radioactive hornet. Again, this is just a myth and no radiation didn't cause overgrown killer hornets, but still these large Japanese hornets do exist and they go by the name of Asian giant hornet. At a number 5 spot, we have the Bailey House Museum. This red brick house in Brownsville was built just after the Civil War by Unison officer Captain Benson M. Bailey. He alongside his wife lived in this house for many years until financial depression hit, causing them to move away. This relocation would eventually place them in a more dangerous area, leading to their eventual murders. Their murders were never solved, but many claim that it was the fault of a jealous neighbor who poisoned the two in order to get their property. Whatever happened, what is known is that the spirit of Captain Benson Bailey is said to lurk the home to this day. He is said to slam doors open and shut in the house in order to display his dominance, and when he's agitated, he will swing them back and forth until you just stop doing whatever it is that he doesn't like. Others have reported seeing the man himself walking the halls and even standing up against the doors motionlessly. At a number 4 spot, we have Hummel Park. Despite being a beautiful park in appearance, there is a much darker story to it that makes you think twice before stepping foot here. This area is said to be the place where many lynchings, hangings, and satanic rituals were performed, and some believe they are happening to this day deep within the woods of the park. A stairway in the park has been called the Stairs to Hell because it is reported that it's impossible to count the same number of steps ascending the stairs as it is descending the stairs. Other than the fact that this place is covered in satanic graffiti, this place is just one of those places you shouldn't test out. You know? Just in case. At a number 3 spot, we have Walgren Lake Monster. Just west of Nebraska is the Walgren Lake, and this body of water is said to hold a 40 to 100 feet beast. Witnesses have said it looks like an alligator that has 2 front legs and a flipper on its back. Others have said it has a serpentine body, which closely resembles the Loch Ness Monster. But I swear, everyone everywhere believes they have the Loch Ness Monster in the area, or is that just me? It's said that you'll know this monster is near is that when you smell a hard stench of rotting flesh. The first written record of this monster is from a 1922 issue of the Hay Springs News. The following year, a local man named J.A. Johnson described the monster in an interview with the Omaha World Herald. According to the report, Johnson and his 2 friends were camping on the banks of the lake when they noticed a creature about 60 feet away. The men claimed that as soon as the beast saw them, it belted out a huge roar, whipped around, and plunged beneath the muddy lake water. At number 2 spot, we have the Ball Cemetery. Ball Cemetery is a cemetery in Springfield, Nebraska that was first used during the 19th century by pioneers. There is only one way in and one way out, and trespassers have been greeted by a caretaker with a shotgun who lives nearby. But instead of the caretaker keeping people out of his cemetery, it's more like he's trying to stop them from entering a place that is cursed. For decades, it has been said that this dark and lonely plot of land in the middle of nowhere is haunted by mysterious entities that defy rational explanation. Tall male apparitions sometimes attack nighttime visitors, and a female ghost laughs, speaks, and tugs on people's clothing. Photographs taken here often contain anomalies which believers swear are evidence of ghostly presences. All the way at a number 1 spot, we have the Hatchet House. In the town of Portal, there is a 1-room schoolhouse that held a very gruesome murder. Legend says that back in the early 1900s, a teacher snapped at her students after they were misbehaving for hours. She had already been having problems back at home as well, so this was her final straw. Except this would be a little bit too brutal for our liking. She would then proceed to lock the door to the classroom and pull out a rusty hatchet from underneath her desk. From here, she would decapitate every single student in the class, and then she took their heads and placed them on top of each of their desks. And it gets worse, so I apologize. She then carved out their hearts and brought them over to a nearby bridge to throw them down below one by one. With the number 10 spot, we're the Goldfield Hotel. With a population of less than 300 people, this ghost town is bound to have something haunted within it. And guess what? It does. So this town got its name because it was discovered in 1902 because of a gold rush. As with many gold rush towns, when the gold went away, so did the people. Then in 1923, a fire engulfed the entire town, leaving the hotel standing alone. This hotel is now a symbol of what used to be, and many visitors claim that it's haunted by the former townsfolk. One of the most notorious spirits found in the hallways of the hotel is a woman named Elizabeth. Legend has it Elizabeth became pregnant with George Wingfield, which was one of the hotel's first owners' child. When he found out, he chained Elizabeth to a radiator in room 109 of the hotel. He supplied her with food and water until she gave birth. Some say Elizabeth passed away shortly after giving birth, and ever since you can hear a baby and her woman crying from room 109. At number 9 spot, with the Clown Motel. If you have a fear for clowns, this motel is probably the last place you want to sleep at. This hotel has an obvious theme for clowns, and this was because the father of the owner was a clown collector and ended up being buried at the cemetery, which is located right beside this motel. Motel and cemetery, probably not the most appealing combination. Not only does each and every single room have all types of different clown decorations, but past owners and workers have claimed that it was haunted since the time it was built. They would recall hearing footsteps and voices coming from unoccupied unoccupied rooms. Even on their website, they have different rooms and the spiritual encounters in each and every single one of them. Because of this, they have a disclaimer which reads, quote, "By visiting the Clown Motel, you acknowledge that you may encounter interaction with spiritual and or unexplained phenomena and or other unexplainable, unusual, or paranormal activity or interactions which may include risk which may or may not be foreseeable. The Clown Motel will not be held liable for any bodily damage, injury, or personal property, emotional distress, death, or other harm caused by aforementioned." Many others have visited this hotel and many other YouTubers have documented their trip, but you must be a clown to step into this one. Haha, no, anyone? No? Okay. At number 8 spot, we have the Lovelock Cave. Located in the middle of Churchill County, the Lovelock Cave is one of those discoveries that makes you question our history a little bit. In 1911, 2 miners were sent to this cave to search for bat guano, which is just bat poop for those who don't know. They would collect loads of this stuff, but eventually as they got deeper into the cave, they began to discover things like baskets, shoes, and even skeletons of humans. The craziest part about this is that it claimed that the skeletons of the humans were giants. I don't mean like 7 feet beings like Shaq, I mean like 10 to 15 tall beings. Local legend claimed that the local Paiute tribe was once at war with cannibalistic giants. The tribe was able to fight them back and trap the giants in this cave. They then filled the cave with deadly smoke to suffocate the rest of the giants in there. Even though bones have not been formally documented, it could be hidden from the public. Who knows? At number 7 spot, we have Tahoe Tessie. On the border of California and Nevada lies the beautiful Lake Tahoe. Legends from the Paiute tribe talk about a serpentine beast who lives in an underwater tunnel beneath that very caves. Then in 1959, a police officer named Mickey Daniels reported that something large rocked his boat while he was fishing with a friend at Lake Tahoe. And it was a cause of concern because his boat was 43 feet long. So something huge must have shaken it up. Except there's no sort of whales in Tahoe, so many claimed it was actually the beast Tessie. They believe Tessie to be around 80 feet long and to be as thick as a telephone pole. Many claim it has relations to the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland, and if you see these two side by side, they honestly look like brothers. Regardless, just be wary of what lies underneath the depths next time you swim at Lake Tahoe. Sometimes the beauty in the area may be deceiving. At number 6 spot, we have Virginia City. So this whole city inside Nevada is considered to be haunted. Yup, a whole city. This place started off as a mining town and was one of Nevada's fastest growing cities, but in 1875 a fire engulfed everything within 9 hours, leaving more than 2,000 structures destroyed, hundreds homeless, and over 300 passed away. Now it's said that the spirits roam the entire town, haunting every single building within it. For example, the old Gold Hill Hotel is said to have the ghosts of children running the halls and scents of rose when spirits are nearby. The Silver Queen Hotel is allegedly haunted by one of the former workers. It's said that her spirit grabs people's hair and attempts to trip them down the stairs. Then in the St. Mary Arts Center, which was built in 1875, the same year of the fire, it's said that they offer paranormal investigations, including seances inside of the building. Right in the hump of our list, we have Bally's Casino and the MGM fire. Let's take a gamble and talk about the infamous fire that claimed the lives of many in the Las Vegas Strip. On November 21, 1980, in the world-renowned MGM Grand, a devastating fire engulfed the place, with it being the second largest loss of life hotel fire in the history of the US, with over 87 people passing away and 700 injured. During the fire, no alarms rang, and to make matters worse, sprinklers weren't even installed in all parts of the building. 8 months after, and the MGM Grand Hotel was rebuilt and reopened to the public. But ever since, visitors claim all sorts of paranormal activity. This includes ghostly apparitions on the same casino floor as the site of the fire, with some reporting that the ghosts are actually still gambling to this day, which is attributed to their last mortal moments before their passing. At number 4 spot, we have Area 51. Couldn't mention Nevada without Area 51. If you haven't been living under a rock, then you must know that this place is a potential alien hotspot. Many people believe this is a place where the government does secret tests with alien technology, and some claim that they keep aliens captive here. The most popular case was from Bob Lazar, who have claimed to work in Area 51 and said that he saw a UFO firsthand, describing it in very specific details. This led many to believe in his theory, and for probably forever, Area 51 will always be associated with alien activity until the US government tells me otherwise. At number 3 spot, we're the Flamingo Hotel. Until this violent murder 6 months after its opening in 1947, the Flamingo Hotel was the pride and joy of notorious mobster Bugsy Siegel. Siegel took over the final phases of construction and convinced more of his underworld associates such as Meyer Lansky to invest in the project. Siegel reportedly lost patience with the project's rising costs, and he once mentioned to the builder Del Webb that he personally killed 16 men on the job. However, some claim that he decided to stay indefinitely. Bugsy has allegedly been seen at the Garden Memorial, inside the wedding chapel, and roaming around the presidential suite, which still has the gold bathroom fixtures from his original room. Guests in his suite have reported hearing whispering and seeing dark shadows looming at the foot of their beds. At number 2 spot, we have the Mob Museum. At a time, Las Vegas was controlled by the mob, and some believe they still do. So it's no surprise a museum of mob activity was built to recognize some of the horrific acts they committed. All of their exploits are documented at this mob museum, renovated from the same downtown courthouse where many of these characters were prosecuted. As you can imagine, they weren't too happy about their jail sentences, and some say their spirits still roam the halls after hours. The supernatural energy is especially strong near an exhibit dedicated to the St. Valentine Day Massacre, featuring a brick wall from a parking garage where 7 Chicago gangsters were shot dead in 1929. All the way at a number 1 spot, we have La Plaza Mansion. Although this property is pretty well put together, once you know about its past, you'll definitely look at it differently. It got such a bad rep, it eventually was considered to be Satan's mansion. Built in 1959, this now abandoned building was home to a threatening gangster. Here in this house, he would organize many of his hits. He would also execute others in that home, and he kept many people captive inside of the basement and the attic. So as the years went by, the house claimed more and more lives, eventually to a point when it reeked of the paranormal. Everyone who moved into the La Plaza Mansion reports a presence of negative energy that hangs over everything. And that's just where the haunting begins. If you visit, be prepared to hear whispers saying get out of here or kill her. And sometimes you might have some piece of furniture or decoration thrown at you aggressively. Number 10, Goody Cole. In 1656, Goodwife Eunice Cole, otherwise known as Goody Cole, was convicted of witchcraft and suffered through the harrowing experience of being tried and punished for a crime she may have not committed. After being released from prison in 1670, Cole returned to Hampton, but unfortunately, her troubles were far from over. Despite being found innocent during her second trial, Cole was treated like an outcast by her neighbors and was forced to survive by scavenging for berries. Legend has it that since her death, Cole has been responsible for a number of tragedies in Hampton, including the sinking of a ship that killed 8 people, as well as the haunting of the town in general. Eventually, many of the town folk would report her many times, and eventually they feared her and coined her with the name Witch of Hampton. Finally, in 1938, the town finally exonerated Cole and acknowledged that she may have been the victim of a terrible injustice. May have. It wasn't until the 1960s that a grave marker was set up in her honor, and since then, Cole has been regarded as a much less harmful spirit. Number 9, the Legend of Chikora. The Legend of Chikora is a well-known tale in New Hampshire, particularly in the White Mountains region. According to legend, Chikora is a mountain in the White Mountains that is home to a mysterious and fearsome creature known as the Chikora monster. The Chikora monster is said to be a large furry beast with glowing red eyes and a ferocious appetite. It is said to roam the forest, preying on any animal or person that crosses its path. Some say that the creature is a mutant created by toxic waste, while others believe it is a supernatural being with powers beyond human understanding. However, according to the legend, Chikora was a proud Indian chief who left his son in the care of a white man while he traveled. When he returned, he found that his son had died in an accident. In a rage, Chikora killed the white man's family, starting a cycle of revenge. The white man chased Chikora to the top of the mountain, which is now known as his name, and as the Indian chief prepared to throw himself off of the mountain rather than give in, he uttered a very bad curse. Since then, the mountain is said to have been the site of strange occurrences, which many people attribute to this curse. Number 8, Cocheco Mills. The Cocheco Mills in Dover, New Hampshire has a dark history attached to it. Back in 1907, the building nearly burned down to the ground, which ended up killing several workers. And ever since, the reports of ghostly activity have persisted. Apart from those passed away in the fire, the mills has also been said to be haunted by the ghost of a former worker named Mary. According to the legend, Mary was a young woman who worked at the Cocheco Mills in the 19th century. One day, while working on the upper floors of the mills, she accidentally fell to her death. And since her tragic accident, her ghost is said to haunt the Cocheco Mills, particularly on the upper floors where she fell. Many people claim to have seen her ghost, often describing her as a young woman with long hair and a very sad expression on her face. Some say that they have heard her footsteps echoing through the empty corridors of the mill, or people who are left alone at night have said to encounter her completely and even spoken to her. Number 7, the Omni Mount Washington Hotel. The Omni Mount Washington Hotel is a luxurious and historic hotel located in the picturesque White Mountains of New Hampshire. Built in 1902 by entrepreneur Joseph Stickney, The hotel was the last of its kind to be built in the area, marking the end of the Grand Hotel era. Mr. Stickney married the beautiful Caroline Foster, who was 27 years his junior, just 10 years before the grand opening of the hotel. Tragically, Mr. Stickney passed away a year after the hotel's grand opening, leaving Coraline to inherit the hotel and all of its wealth. Caroline, who was known to be a little eccentric, eventually married a French prince and spent her winters in France, but she still maintained a strong connection to the Mount Washington Hotel. Legend has it that Coraline's ghost haunts the hotel to this day, with reports of a figure wandering the halls and even sitting on the edges of guests' bed. It is also said that lights here flicker on and off at will, and the sounds of crying babies can be heard in the ballroom when no one is there. Guests can stay in the Princess Suite room 314, where Caroline's 4-poster bed is still used to this day. And if you don't believe me, just ask any of the staff about their experience with the alleged ghost, and I guarantee they'll have a story of their own. This natural historic landmark offers not only the possibility of a paranormal encounter, but it also has these stunning views of the surrounding mountains, so visit here for whatever reason you want. Number 6, the Saco River. The Saco River, which flows for 136 miles from Crawford Notch to Saco Bay in Maine, has a long and mysterious history. The river is known for its varying water conditions, ranging from quiet stretches to rough rapids with fast currents. It is also known for its dark legend, which dates back to the early 1600s. According to the legend, Chief Squando of the Saco tribe was canoeing on the river with his wife and infant son when 3 English sailors snatched the baby from the mother and threw him into the water. The sailors were reportedly drunk and wanted to see if Native American infants were strong swimmers, as they had heard. The mother was able to rescue the baby, but he tragically passed away just a few days later. Chief Squando was said to have magical powers, and he placed a curse on the river, declaring that it would claim 3 white lives annually. From that day forward, the Saco River has been known as the River of Death. The legend of the river curse has been passed down through the years, and it is said that the river has claimed many lives, both of tourists and locals alike. There are no exact records of the lives that have been lost to the river, as the legend dates all the way back 300 years ago. Some say that the curse is to blame for these tragedies, while others attribute them to the river's strong currents and dangerous rapids. Whatever the cause, the Saco River is a force of nature that demands respect and caution from all those who venture near its banks. Number 5, the 1686 house. The 1686 house in Kingston, New Hampshire is a restaurant that was originally a home, one of the oldest ones in the town. It has a rich history and is also rumored to be haunted. So this is when a team of paranormal investigators and a psychic decided to visit and try to capture evidence of any paranormal activity. The team was equipped with infrared cameras, digital recording devices, video equipment, monitors, and also received permission from the Gillespie family, who owns the property. Psychic Jeff Noyles reported sensing the presence of watching Indians, an older man leading a horse and a carriage, and a man sitting in the corner of a dining room that was part of the original barn. Michael Sullivan and Karen Mosey, the paranormal investigators, also captured an image on video, and Mosey recorded voices, including comments such as, "Those are locked, there's hundreds of angels, and I'm frightful, and get those things off of you." Cold spots, which are thought to indicate the presence of ghosts, were also detected in this old building. As well, Noyle sensed a presence of children playing in a small dining room, and on the brighter side, he also sensed a loving presence and stolen kisses in a stairwell. The team also found an old root cellar in the basement, where Noyles reported that parents used to hide their children during storms. It is impossible to say for certain whether the reported paranormal activity was genuine or not, but the 1686 house is certainly a place with an interesting history and a potential for otherworldly encounters. Number 4, Portsmouth Lighthouse. The Portsmouth Harbor Lighthouse in New Hampshire is said to be haunted by the ghost of Joshua Card, who is one of its most famous and dedicated lighthouse keepers. Card served as a keeper of the lighthouse for 35 years, from 1874 all the way to 1909, and he was known for his intelligence, punctuality, sense of humor, and kindness to his neighbors and visitors. However, after his retirement and death in 1911, stories began to circulate about Card's ghost haunting the lighthouse and the surrounding area. Reports of paranormal activity at the lighthouse included shadowy figures being seen, voices being heard, and figures appearing in broad daylight dressed in old-fashioned keepers' uniforms. The ghost hunting team for the television show Ghost Hunters investigated these reports and concluded that the lighthouse was likely haunted. It's believed that Card's spirit remains at the lighthouse due to his love for the location and his dedication to maintaining it during his lifetime. Visitors to the lighthouse have reported strange occurrences, such as feeling his presence, hearing unexplained footsteps and voices, and seeing really weird shadows and lights all around the area. Some have even claimed to have had conversations with his ghost, who is said to still be watching over the lighthouse and the waters it guides ships through. Number 3, the Blair Bridge. The Blair Covered Bridge in Campton, New Hampshire is a historic structure with a reputation for being a paranormal hotspot. It was originally built in 1829, but in only a few months it was burned down by an arsonist named Lem Parker, who claimed that strange voices told him to do it. He made claims towards hearing demonic voices and growls inside of his head. Despite Parker's confession, he was never convicted due to a lack of witnesses, and after the bridge was rebuilt in 1870, it served as an important transportation route connecting various highways and roads. However, it has also been the site of numerous unusual accidents and incidents, leading some to believe it is cursed. Some say it is haunted by an evil spirit, while others attribute the bad luck to coincidence. Then in 2011, the bridge was severely damaged by a giant limb during Hurricane Irene, causing over $2.5 million in damages. But back to the paranormal, other visitors claim to see shadowy figures when they walk near or even over the bridge, where they are known to call out your name in an attempt to bait you close to the edge of the bridge. Whether or not this bridge is cursed or haunted, anything with the name Witch or even Blair is enough to make me find an alternative route. Number 2, Blood Cemetery. With the word blood in your name, there's really nothing good to expect. Blood Cemetery in Hollis, New Hampshire is a place that is rumored to be haunted by the ghost of Abel Blood, who has been buried there since the year 1867. According to some reports, the finger carved on Blood's headstone points heavenward during the day and then points towards the ground at night. Fiona Broom, a paranormal investigator and author, has heard accounts of this phenomenon from people she trusts and has also experienced difficulty taking photographs in the cemetery. Two friends decided to go here in order to investigate paranormal activity back in 1990. While there, one of the friends saw a headstone with an engraved hand that appeared to be leaking a brownish rust-colored fluid. The other friend went to see the headstone for himself and reported feeling as though someone or something had pushed him. The friends left the cemetery and later learned that the hand on the headstone points downward at sunset. The headstone with the hand has since become well known in the paranormal community and was eventually replaced in 2007. Number 1, the Smutty Nose Murders. The Smutty Nose Murders, also known as the Haystack Murders, occurred on the small island of Smutty Nose off the coast of New Hampshire in 1873. The victims were two young women, Anith Christensen and Karen Christensen, and a third woman, Maren Hontvet, who managed to escape despite being severely injured. The killer, Louis Wagner, was a fisherman who had been hired by the woman's brother, John Hontvet, to work on their fishing schooner. On the night of the murders, Wagner broke into the woman's home and attacked them with a hatchet. Anith and Karen were killed, while Maren managed to escape and seek help from their neighbors. Wagner was eventually arrested and eventually convicted of the murders despite denying his guilt and claiming that he had an alibi. He was sentenced to death and hanged in 1875, and the Smutty Nose Murders became a sensation at the time, with newspapers across the country covering the trial and the subsequent execution of Wagner. Ever since, many believe that the island is haunted by the spirits of these two women. As the reports kept coming in, the island became more popular, which eventually inspired Anita Shreve's novel, The Weight of Water, just for those who want to read more about this.